Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. This video I'm going to keep on looking at the Garruk versus Liliana duel deck, and now we're going to look at the Liliana deck after we looked at Garruk last time. So mono black deck, as you might expect. Take a look at the deck list. So we've got 19 creatures, 8 sorceries, 4 instants, 3 enchantments, of course a single planeswalker, and then 25 land. Kind of weird that the Liliana deck has more land in it than Garruk's mono green with a really high mana curve. Speaking of mana curve, we've got it off the side there. More of a mana brick. That's not really a curve at all. It's very solidly, like that. It's not great, is it? But we'll dive into it and see how it works out, maybe. So obviously we've got Liliana as the foil face card with lovely alternate art. So again, it's kind of like with Garruk and with Jason Chandra we had before. There's only been one Liliana so far at this point in the game's history, so it's original Law in 5 Liliana. So 3 in double black for a 5 loyalty planeswalker, +1 to make someone discard a card, which is honestly fairly solid anyway. -2 to search your library for a card, shuffle your library, and then put that card on top of it, which is really, really nice. Like -2 to tutor up anything. Don't have to even reveal it, actually, looking at it, which is really good because it can be anything. So that's really, really nice. And then -8 to put all creature cards in all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control, so mass reanimation. Yeah, that's also really, really fantastic. So kind of like Garruk, actually, like just 3 really, really solid abilities to have on the original Liliana. Yeah, pretty cool. I like it. Right, and then we got a skeletal vampire. I feel like I think I've mentioned this before, maybe when looking at the there was the way back in original Ravnica, there was the Orzhov deck, and Skeletal Vampire was in that. And like, they're just, I don't know, there seemed to be a point where Skeletal Vampire was in a lot of pre-constructed products for some reason. But yeah, I don't know, maybe because it was like fairly solid. Because it's generally okay. So it's 4 in double black for a 3/3 flying. When it enters the battlefield, you make 2 bat tokens. You can spend 3 in double black. You can sacrifice a bat, and you make 2 more bats. You just turn 1 bat into 2, and you can sacrifice a bat to regenerate it. So a lot going on. It's 6 mana to make like 5 power worth of flying creatures, which is okay. It can keep making tokens, I suppose. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right, but yeah, maybe it I don't know. To me, it just felt like it was everywhere for like a really long time. It just kept showing up in products. Maybe I don't know. That's maybe that's just me. And then we've got a single Fairy Macabre, so 1 and double black for a 2/2 flying. And it has just this, to me, it feels like a super weird ability where you can just discard it from your hand just whenever you want to exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards. And yeah, like there's no mana to it or anything. It's like it's not an ability it has when it's on the battlefield. It's just you do it from your hand, and it's just it's such a super weird ability. But that ability I think gave it some use in like certain constructed formats at the time, because it's like it's obviously just like a free graveyard hate spell, so it disrupts like certain strategies that you want to get cards in the graveyard, like dredge, I imagine. Against the Garruk deck, there's not much this can do, honestly. This I guess it stops they've got a single beast attack, I think, in the Garruk deck, like a single flashback card. Yeah, and that's it, really. I'm not sure what else this is here for. I mean, it's just a 2/2 flyer, I suppose, which is honestly kind of hard for the Garruk deck to deal with because it has very, very little to deal with flying. But yeah, just for like feels like a weird card to include. Single Howling Banshee, 2 and double black for a 3/3 flying. When it ends the battlefield, each player loses 3 life. Yep, and then it's like a fairly big flyer, so it's okay. Again, like a fairly big threat for the other deck, the Garruk deck, to deal with, because again, it's like a fairly biggish flyer that it doesn't have many answers to. Single Keening Banshee, 2 and double black for a 2/2 flying. When it ends the battlefield, gives something -2/2 10/10. I actually quite like Keening Banshee. Yeah, 1 extra black over, sort of like a Windrake to also be like a an okay-ish kill spell. Yeah, I think it's all right. 2 Twisted Abomination, which is a card I really used to like back in the day when I used to put it in like zombie decks and stuff. So if I own black for a 5/3, you spend 1 black to regenerate it, and I'm a big sucker for a single mana regeneration. But there's swamp cycling for 2, so you can pay 2, discard it from your hand, you search your library for a swamp, and then put it into your hand, so it helps you smooth out your mana as well. So yeah, really like Twisted Abomination, and then it's in your graveyard where this deck has got some ways of then playing around with that. Then we got like a whole bunch of like these some really classic black creature spells, actually. All reprints from like Alpha, the very first set. So yeah, it's really nice to see all these like have made it all the way up to, at this time, like modern day Magic with new art and new frames and stuff. But yeah, we've got Vampire Bats, 1 black mana for a 0/1 with flying. You can spend a black to give it +1/+0 to end turn, but you can only do that a maximum of twice. Goes nicely with the Skeletal Vampire because it can sacrifice this to make bat tokens. We've got a single Drudge Skeletons, 1 black for a 1/1 with single mana regeneration, so I'm a complete sucker for it. I think this is new art. I'm not sure. It might be new art. Anyway. And then a single Wall of Bone, 2 black for a 1/4 defender, again with single mana regeneration, so I'm a big sucker for it. So yeah, these two can really hold off quite a lot in Garruk's deck, because in Garruk's deck not a lot of stuff actually has trample, so yeah, they can be effectively walled by these skelly boys. Right, and then we've got 2 Phyrexian Rages, 2 black for a 2/2. When it ends the battlefield, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Yep, it's perfectly fine. I like Phyrexian Rages, not much to say about it. 2 Fleshbag Marauders, 2 black for a 3/1. When it ends the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature, which is pretty nice. Obviously, Liliana's deck has more, I think, expendable things. Obviously, the Fleshbag Marauder can just sacrifice itself to its own effect. We can sacrifice, something like, I don't know, like bat tokens, or you've got like things in here that don't mind dying, basically. We've got single Ravenous Rats, 1 black. When it ends the battlefield, target opponent discards a card. It would have been nice maybe to have more than these, to have like more discard effects, but it's fine as is, I suppose. A single Urborg Siphon Mage, 2 black for a 2/2. You spend 2 black, tap, discard a card. Each other player loses 2 life, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. Used to really like this guy back in Time Spiral days. But mostly because I used to play like big multiplayer games, as the norm. So this scaled up really, really well. Like when we were playing like 4 or 5 player games, definitely became like a priority target. Here it's okay. Assuming like you were just going to play these 2 decks, like you and a friend were going to just play these 2 decks against each other. It's still all right, but obviously better in multiplayer. Single Death Greeter, 1 black mana for 1/1. Whenever another creature dies, it hasn't got updated wording yet. You gain a life. It's kind of like Black Soul Warden, I suppose. Not wonderful, honestly. But it's a 1/1 for 1, I suppose. Like it's at the point where Black doesn't have good 1-drops, I suppose, or many at least, because it did have some good ones, I suppose. But yeah, it's all right. I feel like this could have been something else, and it would have been better. And then 2 Ghostlit Stalkers, which again, this also feels like a weird inclusion. So 1 black mana for a 1/1. So 4 black, tap, target player discards 2 cards, activate only anytime you can cast a sorcery, and channel for 5 and double black, discard it. Target player discards 4 cards, activate this ability only other time you can cast a sorcery. So it's from Kamigawa when the set was generally slower and grindier. I'm not fond of this guy at all, because like his abilities are so expensive, and like in my experiences when I've been playing, when you get to the point when you're hitting like 5 mana or like 7 mana for the channel, you got no ways like ramping this out quicker either. By the time you hit 7 mana, like it's very unlikely the opponent's going to have like 4 cards to discard. I mean, obviously, if they do, it'd be absolutely crippling, because they just lose their kind of late game hand, I suppose. But yeah, and he's like so fragile as well. I'm not a fan of this. I mean, like I would have just liked more Ravenous Rats, I suppose, for like a reliable, cheap discard effect. Right, and then non-creature spells. So we've got a single Bad Moon, so 1 black to give black creatures +1/+1, just very straightforward. Obviously benefits everything in the deck, which is really nice. It is symmetrical as well, and I saw mentioned in the Garruk deck as well, there is Wild Mongrel that could change its colour to black and get the benefit, which would be kind of funny. We've got Mutilate with new art. If you've ever seen the original art for Mutilate from like Torment, I think was the original set, it is absolutely nightmare fuel, and gives me the heebie-jeebies. This is much better art, I think. So 2 and double black, all creatures get -1/-1 until end turn for every swamp you control. And we're playing mono black, so this is basically always a board wipe. So yeah, this is a nice inclusion here, especially with the new art. And then on the subject of new art and like really nice reprints, Snuff Out. So this is a card I never rated that much, I think, when I was younger, because I don't know, I was like, oh, it's really expensive, and like, oh, you have to pay life to use it. Oh, it's rubbish. And obviously now I'm older and wiser and realize that this is absolutely fantastic, and like goes for quite a high price, because it has very limited print run, and it's essentially a free kill spell. Being able to pay 4 life to destroy a creature, when you're completely tapped out, is really, really strong. So yeah, this is a really nice inclusion here, and I say with lovely new art as well. And then we've got a single Hideous End, which is actually from Zendikar, which was the most recent set at the time. So 1 double black, destroy target non-black creature, its control loses 2 life. Yep, so it's just, dark banishing with a little extra, I suppose. It's alright. And then 2 Corrupts and 2 Tendrils of Corruption, which I'll basically just talk about at the same time, because they're essentially the same card. So they both do damage equal to the number of swamps you control to either a creature, or Corrupt can hit creatures or players, and you gain life. And it's fine. they're obviously they're both completely fine. Expensive, obviously, but we're playing mono black. We got a bunch of swamps. Yeah, they're both fine. And then we've got a single Ichor Slick, 2 in a black. It gives a creature -3/-3 to land turn. It has cycling and it has madness, so I really like this combination of keywords on here. So you can cycle it by paying 2, where you discard it and draw a card. But it also has madness, so if you discard the card by cycling it, you can pay its madness cost and you still get it. So essentially you can pay 6 to get -3/-3 and draw a card if you want to do that. I think it's just a cute way those 2 keywords interact. Not sure the card itself is like that great. I just think it's like a fun interaction between those keywords. Single Vicious Hunger is a sort of a cheaper burn spell, double black to do 2 damage to a creature and you gain 2 life. It's alright for killing off some of the weaker utility creatures in Garruk's deck, or just sneaking in the last extra bit of damage, I suppose. It's alright. And then a single Genju of the Fens, because Garruk's deck had the green Genju. So 1 black mana, enchants the swamp. You can pay 2 to turn the swamp into a 2/2 black spirit. And it has the shade ability, which is actually really, really nice. So it can potentially be better than the green Genju if you just sink a load of black mana into it. And then when the swamp is destroyed, Genju of the Fens goes back into your hand, so you can cast it again. So it could actually be really tricky to deal with, honestly, which is, I think, really cool. And then 2 Sign in Blood, double black mana just to draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. Yep, this is again like a nice versatile card where you can obviously use it on yourself to draw some cards, or if you're really desperate, use it on the opponent and make them lose 2 life. I've won games by doing the last 2 damage with Sign in Blood, and but most of the time just cast it myself to just get the extra cards. Single Rise from the Grave, 4 and a black. You put a creature card in any graveyard on the battlefield under control, and it becomes a black zombie in addition to other colours and types, so then it benefits from Bad Moon. It's a real shame, I think, there's only one like reanimation spell in the whole deck, because like Liliana's whole deal is that she is a necromancer. So for this to be the only real reanimation spell, I think it's a real missed opportunity. I would like to see more like just normal like Raise Dead effects, Then a single Enslave, 4 and double black, to gain control of enchanted creature, and at the beginning of your upkeep it does 1 damage to its to the owner. So really, really nice to get control of something and also keep pinging away at the owner while swinging at them with their own creature. So yeah, really nice, really like Enslave. And then 2 Polluted Mires, which is just a cycling land, and then 23 swamps, which is great because we've got a bunch of things in here that care about swamps. So overall, like, I kind of hope you see what I mean there about like Liliana's deck. Kind of, I had the same criticism about Garruk's deck, where like there was no real, I guess, no real like strategy to it. It was just like kind of like, here are some generically good cards, sort of like mashed together into a deck. It does feel like a little bit pile of cards. Now the pile of cards is a good pile of cards, but there's no real, I guess nothing jumps out to me as like being very having a lot of synergies or like combo potential. Kind of like Garruk's deck, Liliana's deck is very scattergun in approach. Like it's got some discard, it's got some creature kill, it's got like, I suppose like the discard is like the closest thing I can say. It's obviously got like some removal spells. It doesn't really have a lot of reanimation, which is like something I'd really would have liked to see Liliana's deck have, like a bunch of like maybe like self-mill effects or like buried alive effects or entomb, and then like raised dead or reanimation, like treat your graveyard as like a resource. It's a real shame it didn't go with that, because I felt that would have been really thematic to Liliana. And so it's got more like discard effects, but also the discard effects aren't that great either. I suppose like you could say it's got a bunch of flying creatures, which is, and that's like kind of hard for Garruk's deck to deal with. But I'm not, I guess, entirely sure how Liliana's deck is meant to win. I suppose, other than just maybe like grinding out a win with a bunch of removal spells, and like maybe you draw up to Liliana and then you pop her ultimate and reanimate everything. I mean, having said all that, given my criticisms, I do like Liliana's deck more out of the 2. I think just because it has more cards in it that I personally like. But yeah, as a whole, actually, like a lot of people actually rave about Garruk versus Liliana. This dual deck as being really really good, and I just don't see it. Like it's like I think it's fine. I think I think it's sort of like slightly above average maybe, but I don't know if the decks are like that well put together, honestly. But that's just I don't know my opinion. I'd like to know obviously what you think about this. I don't know, maybe there's something I'm like really missing, either about Liliana's deck or Garrick's deck or the two as a whole. I never actually got to play these two against each other. I bought like two copies of it and like basically instantly dismantled them and put all the cards into different decks. So I never really got to play against them and see which one maybe had the advantage over the other. But if you did play this, have this set and like play the decks against each other and like one performed better than the other, please let me know. Stick a comment down below. Or if you've got any other thoughts or comments or stories or opinions about either of the decks or the product as a whole, would really like to hear about it. But yeah, that was Garruk versus Liliana. And it was a little anticlimactic, if I'm honest. But yeah, I hope you join me next time. I'm going to look at another dual deck, be Coalition versus Phyrexia next time. So I hope you join me for that. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.